Welcome to our March for Science Earth Week Media Zone. I'm Rania Batrice, Interim Executive Director for March for Science. And for those of you just tuning in, today we'll be focusing on justice and how justice intersects with science, climate, democracy, basically everything. And as we've discussed here before, the placement of art within these conversations and as a catalyst for deeper conversations and more intentional work cannot be ignored. It is for these reasons and so many more that I'm excited to have our very next guest, activist, artist, conservationist, songwriter, and a member of the Black Eyed Peas, Taboo Nawasha. Welcome, Tab. How's it going?
Thank you so much. I appreciate the intro. I would just say I'm very proud to be a husband, a father. You know, all the other accolades are secondary when it comes to me as a person. You know, I always put my family first because that's who I am. What you see is what you get. You know, the Black Eyed Peas, I make a joke as like, that's a great day job, but it doesn't, you know, it's not what best describes me. I have so many different layers. So I'm glad that you're reaching out to me about this specific, you know, the activism, venturing out and being a voice for Indigenous people. That's my wheelhouse, and I'm proud to represent.
Yes, and you kind of are stepping us into the first thing I wanted to talk with you about. This is your first time joining us at March for Science, and there's so many amazing things about you, including the fact that you center being a husband and father first, which I mean, we all just appreciate so much. But what we connected on first was fighting for Native sovereignty and Indigenous rights. And you have a very close relationship with Indigenous people. It's deep and it's personal. And I would love for you to just talk a little bit about your own ancestry and that connection to the land, to Native peoples, all of it. Would love to just get your direct words on that matter.
Sure. So it all started when I was 5 in my grandmother's living room. And I always say this story because her love and her pride for our culture as a Native woman from Jerome, Arizona, she instilled this fire and this drive and this sort of like a give back attitude, because she was always putting others before herself, sometimes to her own detriment, being of service. That was her calling. But she always, you know, represented her culture to the fullest. She was very proud of where she came from. And when I was 5 years old, she sparked this energy, and she would introduce me. She would say, "From Los Angeles, California, give it up for Jimmy Gomez." And I would be in her living room performing and dancing. And that joy and that happiness that you know, my grandmother had on her face let me know that this was my calling. So at 5 years old, the love and appreciation that my grandmother showed and nurtured and supported me in the arts and music and dance was a thing that kind of led me into my activism and my role to be able to connect with my Native roots. Because as you know, our people are very proud about, you know, arts, music, dance. It's part of our DNA, whether it's powwow style dancing, traditional, or even modern. And so all that, the idea started with me as an artist, and then eventually it moved into activism and just knowing my role as being a voice and wanting to be a voice, because it's a big responsibility. Not a lot of us in pop culture, especially with the bridge or a platform like Black Eyed Peas, that can speak to Indian country, but yet speak to millions of people around the world because of the music. So, you know, what led me to become a full-blown voice and activist was when I went to Standing Rock. And that happened after I beat cancer. So I was diagnosed with cancer in 2014. I did 12 weeks of chemotherapy, and I try to offset that with other forms of healing. So unconventional healing, like going to Standing Rock, that was part of my treatment and my healing, mentally, physically, because when I went to Standing Rock, it kind of rejuvenated me as a person. It taught me a lot about, you know, being a good relative, standing in solidarity, all the things that you learned being at that amazing event and that gathering, because it was a gathering. It was non-allies. I mean, it was Native allies and relatives that were from different parts of the world were there standing with the Standing Rock Sioux tribe and the water protectors. So that point in my life was kind of like my aha moment to say like, oh, wow, this is exactly who I need to be as a voice, because I have all this huge momentum with Black Eyed Peas. Why not bring that energy every time I have a platform to be that person in pop culture, because there's not a lot of us, like I said, to bring light and to inspire the youth and have kids hold on to dreams and aspirations.
Absolutely.
Fortunately, I've had a lot of support from my wife and my kids, not only in the music space, but also in my activism and the things that I've done to be of service and to give back, just like my grandmother gave back.
That is so good and so true. And we talk a lot about meeting people where they are. And to your point, the ability to reach people through non-traditional means. And yes, there are not that many people who take their platform, just like you said, and leverage it in this way to really be impactful for the planet and for people. And so you are, of course, are very passionate. People can see that right away just listening to your talk.
Well, I speak from the heart, and I speak candid. Like I love being transparent with folks and letting them know that it's coming from a very personal place. And that's why I mentioned my grandmother, because it wasn't like, oh, one day I got inspired by a relative or by someone I saw on TV. This happened when I was 5 years old, and the love and appreciation my grandmother showed me. She loved being a Native woman. She loved being from Jerome, Arizona, and that love and that passion, it just like it became part of my journey and my delivery of how I am as a person.
Yeah, and you actually, there was a recent example of taking your platform and just the direct impact you were able to have. There's a community in Alaska that was absolutely devastated earlier this year in January by a fire. It took out the village's water plant. And to say there was inaction by the governor would be an understatement. But you and some amazing partners came together to do something, not even just talk about it, raise awareness, which you did, and that's important too, but you were able to help deliver resources that were desperately needed. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit to our viewers about what happened and how you were able to mobilize efforts to deliver these much needed resources.
Yeah, so, being on social media, sometimes you come across pages, especially from relatives that may not have the light and have a platform to be able to be of service on a grand scale, the way that, I like to use my platform. There's this hero, she's a matriarch to this story. Her name is CJ. She posted about, we need supplies, we need water. There's no drinking water for the families, for the tribes of Tuluksak in Alaska, and we're looking for folks to be able to donate. And so, they were saying how they didn't want water bottles that were plastic water bottles. And fortunately, I partnered up with a company called Flow Water. Excuse me, my dog's barking. Flow Water, which is very sustainable, and the packaging is eco-friendly. But most of all, yes, cheers. But most of all, like, it's all about being sourced responsibly. And that's why I took on this endeavor and made sure that it was part of my narrative, because it would be weird for me to be part of a company standing at Standing Rock with water protectors. And then it's like, well, where's this water sourced from? And I want to be able to, once again, give back to tribal communities and acknowledge that. So I sent 9,000 pounds of water worth to the families, to Alaska. And the governor wasn't doing anything. And I'm not a politician, I'm not in politics, but I am a person that likes to be of social help, like make it about the people, right? So fortunately, we acted really fast. We sent, like I said, 10 pallets of water, which equals to like 9,000 boxes of these type of waters, 1 liter water bottles. And it got to Alaska, and there was like all this crazy disconnect because they couldn't actually get it to the village. The icy roads were preventing that. Fortunately, we got it there. There was 2 heroes. There was CJ and Angie, who were both, they were the champions on making it all happen, reaching out to other people who supported and donated. So it was just something like that, something as simple as that, wanting to be of service and help when I can. And I know that I can't help everyone. I know that. It's just something that's part of my narrative now, because I felt like Creator gave me a chance to live when I beat cancer, so that I can use my platform as the bigger purpose, with the bigger purpose. Now it's not just about music. It's not just about entertainment or for the gram. I want to picture it on the gram. Like, no, this is coming from the heart. This is something that grandmother instilled. And if it's something as simple as donating water to relatives in Alaska, let's go. I just want to be able to help wherever I can.
Yes, absolutely. And
look, they gifted me with this amazing medallion. So CJ, I want to thank you for gifting me this, because it means so much, because I have the healing hand tattooed on my arm as a representation of, you know, the trauma and the experience I went through battling cancer, but also the healing process, mentally, physically, spiritually, and reconnecting with my roots. My grandmother, you know, I felt like she would always say, keep your hands in the soil, keep yourself connected to Mother Earth. That was the vibe, that was the energy. So I try to do as much as I can. And, you know, I'm going to make mistakes along the way, because I'm not perfect. But if I can do a better job than I did yesterday to be able to be of service tomorrow, then I'm going to do that.
Absolutely. And we have to celebrate that, because it, just like we talked about before, everybody doesn't, you know, it's not from a place of judgment or anything, but everybody doesn't utilize their platform in that way. So I just want to celebrate that and you. And I'd love to just, along this same vein, it's sometimes hard, right, to keep moving forward. There's so much going on. Sometimes we look around, we're like, what could I possibly do?
Right.
What is my place in this? How can one person do X, Y, or Z thing? I mean, we understand those feelings and those emotions. So I'd love for you to just give any advice that you have for anyone watching who is seeing what's happening all around us. They really want to do something. They want to be helpful, but they're not sure where to start.
I connected along the way. Like, one of them is Crystal Echohawk from Illuminative, who has her hands on the pulse when it comes to whether it's politics, whether it's you know, art, fashion, music, anything that deals with Indian country and representation, and knowing where to activate and what levers to pull and what people to connect with. I always go to her. Crystal Echohawk is kind of like the person that connects with things. You got to understand, I'm from the city of LA, right? So born and raised in Los Angeles, I started learning about res life and learning about being an urban native and learning the different things, the different landmines that you have to walk gingerly when it comes to Indian country, and being empathetic about certain things. And like I said, making mistakes along the way, but not being, not being afraid to embrace that you don't know everything. It's okay to not know every single aspect of being a native or being a Mexicano, because I'm both, you know, and I'm proud of both cultures. And I'm still a student. I'm constantly learning. So I go to people like Crystal Echohawk, Bird Running Waters, another amazing ally and mentor, Sam McCracken from N7. There's another person named MC1, who's part of this group called Mag 7, which I had the honor of making the song for Standing Rock called Stand Up, Stand and Rock, No Dapple. And MC1, his name is Marcus Gwen. He's like one of those guys that goes to all these different youth activations and just speaks to the kids. So if you could connect with the youth, I want to be down with you, because you're activating the youth and you're making something more impactful, because you're dealing with issues about voting, you're dealing with issues about, you know, having hope and dreams and holding on to those aspirations, whether it's academic or art or athletes. We want to embrace all of that. We want our youth to be inspired by that and have heroes without capes, metaphorically. Heroes in our own community that may not have the same light and shining on them, but we want to celebrate them as well. Just like what you said earlier about celebrating and highlighting those moments.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, yes. And it's such an important point that you bring up, because you don't, have to be famous to make a difference, right? To connect to the human level, to tell the stories, to help shine the light. That's exactly.
It's funny. It's funny that you say that, because you're a hero to one of my close friends and coworker who's part of our team. Her name is Sarah Raymaker. She's the one that introduced me to you and your whole, the beauty that you bring as an activist, as a voice, as a matriarch, as a leader, all the things that you've done. She was like, you need to connect with my friend, because she's doing a lot of major moves, and she's like you. All the stuff that you want to do, the give back, the energy that you want to affect change, like she's about that. So I'm very, very proud that Sarah Raymaker connected us.
I am too. You're gonna make me cry. Thank you. I appreciate that so much. I mean, it is, I always say, you know, sometimes it sounds trite or whatever, overly simplified, but it really is going to take all of us.
Yes,
It's going to take
exactly.
every one of us doing whatever it is that we're good at. So
Yep.
one last question before I let you go today. You know, we're facing these unprecedented times in so many ways. The pandemic hit Black and Brown and Indigenous communities harder than so many others. And then concurrently, we have the climate crisis, which continues. It didn't stop, right? It's roaring, it's here. And it also disproportionately affects those same communities. And sometimes it's hard to find the courage to keep going. Like I said, it's a lot. These issues are big. But I'd love for you to just share with us what keeps you going.
I'm gonna be very honest, very candid. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm a husband and a father, ladies and gentlemen, and my wife and my kids are my fuel and my engine to keep me creative, to keep me motivated, to keep me inspired. Like without them, I would just be a shell of myself, because every day that I'm with my kids, they bring life. Every day that I'm with my wife, she is my life, because, you know, we celebrate and we honor each other and we build and we ping pong on, you know, life issues with our kids and away from our kids, because before we had children, it was just about her and I. So I honor and celebrate my wife on many levels, because she taught me a lot about myself. She taught me a lot about my role as, you know, the head of the household, but also her partner. We can't do this without each other. So that's something that I credit to my wife, and I credit to my kids. And as far as creativity, I'm very proud to contribute to the Marvel Universe. I just wrote a amazing, it's not a native story, but it's based loosely on my life. The character's name is Jake Gomez. The hero's name is Werewolf by Night. And there's a grandmother in there. I wonder where that grandmother idea came from.
Yeah.
So I put it into this book with Marvel. It's called Werewolf by Night. It's featuring another amazing native hero, one of the first native heroes in the Marvel Universe. His name is Red Wolf. I also put my daughter in it. His partner's name is JJ, so that's Jet Juliana. And I want to change the narrative of what's been put out in the Marvel Universe. Modern day story. You know, we're not going to see the traditional, what has been romanticized in Western television with feathers and all the stereotypes and things that we've seen. We're changing that narrative. They're bringing me in as a voice. And if I don't have the answer for it, I'm bringing in relatives from Indian country like Vince Schilling and Dolores Schilling to be my cultural consultants. I'm bringing JC Shelton, a Hopi relative, to talk about the Hopi Res life, you know, and all these amazing opportunities to not only give light to Native communities, but also to these amazing figures and heroes without capes. We also got to work with Jeffrey Varegi, who's been at Marvel for 5 years. He's an amazing artist and happens to be Native. So we want to be able to change the perspective and have the same conversations in the same seat at the round table as every other background, but yet be inclusive. We don't want to alienate people. We want it to be inclusive to everyone, so everybody feels connected to it, no matter if you're not a Native. You know, it's something that it was inspired by Black Panther. The movie Black Panther inspired me to go after and be like, okay, although there's like Native foundation, it speaks to everyone, and that's what I want to do. Just like I do with Black Eyed Peas. It's like we're all from different backgrounds. We're a beautiful mosaic of culture representation, and we like to celebrate and honor different styles and different frequencies. And that's why our music is always constantly changing. You know, Black Eyed Peas, we've been able to be in the music industry for over 20 something years. And even in 2021, we're still able to reinvent ourselves with songs like Girl Like Me featuring Shakira and Mamacita featuring Ozuna and Ritmo with J Balvin. Come to think of it, it's like, oh, whoa, now we're in the Latin market. We're not a Latin act, but the fact that we can genre bend and we could celebrate other cultures and embrace it as a role of just changing the narrative of what is expected and what's traditional.
I love that so much. And just such a beautiful reminder of how creativity can bring us all together, how art brings us all together. Tab, I just can't thank you enough for joining us today and sharing your words and your love with our March for Science community and family. I mean, you just make my heart smile every time we talk, every time we
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And for all the people out there, March for Science, I'm very proud of all the work ethic and all the effort that's been being put into this amazing event, and all the ideas and creatives and the thinkers out there who are trying to affect change. Everyone needs to come aboard and rock with us. That's the only way I can say it. Simple terms. It's not all like, big words. It's like, come and rock with us, because we all need to be of service and we can use some help. It's not just one person, it's all of us.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for everybody for tuning in and all you've done to continue to bring justice about in all its forms, front and center. Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Appreciate
Until
that.
next time.